Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to the latest installment of Red Alert, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dave Davis, coming to you from a fucking cold Edinburgh, to be honest. It is absolutely Baltic here, and that's why you can probably see James is doing an impression of Compo. You can probably see he's trying to disguise it, but it looks like Christmas is shit all over him, basically. But he's quite a happy chappy that way. And we are here to bring you all the latest from December coming up. But Back to the Future, Marty McFly style, we will recap on everything November-wise. And we'll get them straight into it, ladies and gents, and see how they sum it up, see how they think about it. This is going to be tough for you, Mark. One word, November.
Perfect.
Jamesy.
Mesmerizing.
Oh, I'm going to go with erotic. It was absolutely erotic. November was. It was unbelievable. I mean, let's be honest, people. If you're a Liverpool fan and you aren't sort of bouncing off your nut right now at everything that's going on, these types of things are probably not the right thing for you. Probably football isn't either, to be honest. There is so much to like about the Reds. And I mean, we've got a few adjectives there, Mark. I think it's adjectives. Probably my English teacher isn't listening anymore, so who gives a damn? But overall thoughts in more than one word, I'll give you this time on November. Talk to me.
I mean, what can you say about a month like that? It was so good. I mean, so good that it's hard to sum it all up because it was that kind of perfect. I mean, I think you'd have to kind of break it down game by game to understand how we built and got to where we were, and how the feeling has changed from a team that was maybe overachieving, or so some would say, or hadn't faced enough tests and all those sort of things, to a team now that if you go on any social media, people are calling them the best team in the world. And there's no way to argue against it as we sit here today, 19 games into the season. That kind of build-up begins for me in the Brighton game. I think it's a great kind of setup for the month that was to come, because we had a pretty poor first half against Brighton. The atmosphere had been fairly low-key all season. We hadn't quite broken into, the famous sort of afternoons and nights that you get at Anfield. And that second half in Brighton, it really exploded for me. The atmosphere went up. The feeling in the ground went up. The kind of intensity of the game went up. We ended up getting the equaliser. Obviously, we're 1-0 down first half. We ended up getting the equaliser with that kind of Gakpo cross that Nunes either cleverly or mistakenly leaves that flies into the back post. And it really went up a level just right from that minute. And the next goal comes not long after. Salah cuts inside and launches one at the top corner in like classic Mo Salah style. And I was left kind of feeling after that not only were we like a team that could control, could score, clearly with a couple of the best defenders in the world, it felt like we had that little X factor thing. It felt like the little bit of heart that's needed to come from beyond and, find these moments and somehow get over the line. We really kind of cemented that for me in that Brighton game. I think that was a significant game. You don't always know them when they come, but I think looking back at it, Brighton are a really strong team, and not easily turned over. And to be losing to them, whatever it was, 60, 70 minutes into the game, turn it around, 2 great goals, holding out. I think that, if the season goes the way we hope it's going to be, I think that's one of those we'll maybe look back on. We go off to Leverkusen next to play, the German champions. Could have been a really difficult game. The score is 4-0 and looks very comfortable. We actually didn't get our first goal until I think around like 60, 65 minutes. But we end up swatting them aside. In fact, that kind of second half Reds thing is it's becoming a bit of a theme, really. If you look at Brighton game was 1, that game's a clear second. I think the Villa game is the only one in the whole month we were winning at half-time. The Leverkusen game, the Brighton game, the Southampton game, we're not winning. And then, obviously, the game last night against Madrid, we also tied at half-time. We swatted them aside in the end with absolute quality. Leverkusen, the Jones through ball for Diaz, if you remember, it was just proper like eye of the needle, line breaking ball, the highest quality. I mean, if it was Coutinho at his prime or someone like that, you wouldn't have been surprised. But no, it was Curtis Jones who had a hell of a month there. Diaz goes on to seal his hat-trick. Villa next up. We had we kicked that one off pretty well. One of the few games we have kind of taken the lead and gone with early. That Salah run, if you remember, where he's fouled and the now disgraced referee calls play on, and Nunes with a brilliant finish around the keeper slams it in. And then obviously the Salah one to seal it. What will probably become really iconic celebration of him sitting there under the lights looking up into his adoring crowd. Just fantastic stuff. Southampton next, proper roller coaster game. Southampton, it's one of those where after the international break, you don't know if you're come back, where we left it, or if you're going to be a little under. It seems like so far with Slot, they've been a little under when we've come back. A little bit of rhythm lost, and those are the tough ones where you have to find something else. You have to, find a way, whatever way it's going to be. We're pretty sloppy in that game. One of the more sloppy and poorer performances of the season, I would say. But that man again, Mo Salah's there to steal the day, win it for us, and the pressure on his situation, his contract grows with every swift, slick finish with that left boot of his. Unbelievable. And the month's games culminating in the one last night against Real Madrid. You two were fortunate enough to be there. The atmosphere, like I was kind of describing at the start, we've been on like a building process this month for me, as far as kind of lifting towards away from kind of dreaming to hope to hoping to thinking, is this real? Are we actually this team again? We found ourselves in a position of as high as we ever found ourselves under the Klopp regime, where everything seems possible. Everything seems possible, and some of it even seems probable. Just an amazing place to get to, and that really was summed up there yesterday against Madrid. When there's so many things to say about that game. The atmosphere was ridiculous. Ridiculous for a game that didn't mean that much on paper, other than the fact we've had trouble against them in the past. We're already sitting so pretty in that league with the harder games behind us. For the atmosphere to reach that level, I think that is because of the month we've had, and the momentum that the crowd feel. They know what is happening here, how possible this kind of magic is. And these big ones, when you win them, they elevate you to another level. They really do. I was thinking before the game, maybe we should rest people. Maybe the game on Sunday is so big that, you shouldn't. And now after the fact, I kind of see my error there, and the value of what it is to win such an enormous game, especially against Real Madrid, the biggest team in the world, really. And we didn't just beat them, we demolished them. We outfought them, we out-qualityed them. I thought, in particular, you look at guys like Jones, Kelleher, and Bradley, guys like coming into the season that they just simply wouldn't have been on your mind for that game. In fact, if you had known they were going to play in that fixture, you might have worried about their performance up against, the world's greatest players, and they blew them away. The tackle, obviously, from Bradley really sums up his night, as well as the fact he had a role in the McAllister goal. He had a headed chance he nearly put in himself. A rock and roll performance from him. He was, I think, since that original game against Chelsea when he first broke through, a few of us have watched him be a little erratic from time to time, and maybe questioned if that was more flash in the pan than the level we're going to see. And I think he really went some way last night to kind of, putting that back down our throats. I think that was a really big one for him. It's a shame it looks like it's ended with injury for him, but nonetheless, that's, it's one of those you never forget. I remember kind of early in Trent's days when, he found himself up against the likes of Messi and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you really find a level of yourself there, and I think it's like a little thing you can lean on later in your career. You've done that. You've played against the best. You're Kylian Mbappe is as tough an opponent as you will ever face in your career, and he just dealt with it no problem. Kelleher, obviously, so reliable. I think I've bleated on enough about the month, so I'll pass it over to you guys. But I mean, we just find ourselves in dreamland, don't we?
Listen, if you can't start bleating about Liverpool in November and everything that's going on right now, what can you do, like, realistically? And this one, I'm going to come to you, Jamesy. And bear in mind, we need to talk about your last comments about a certain player and how that went down. There's maybe a few candidates. Spoiler alert, there's not. Who is the standout player for you for November, Jamesy?
Can we just get one thing clear? First of all, who predicted the Reds were going to win every single game in November? Can we just pause? I think that was this guy.
So anyway, James, the standout player in November, who are you going for?
The standout player in November is Mo Salah. There's only one. It's just how he has just burst into life. He takes the game and he just grabs it up by the scruff of the neck. Everything about him. We were watching him against Liverpool before he burst into Bayer Leverkusen in the first half, and his touches, and even in Madrid, they're always trying to get the ball. He's always trying to create, and it's always him that's getting marked. I mean, he's absolutely phenomenal in everything he does. And maybe I've got an apology to give. But my man, the November's player of the month is Mo Salah.
Yeah, we'll come back to your apology slightly later, no doubts about it. Mark, is Jamesy right saying Mo Salah is the player of November?
Yeah, of course he is. There's just no question about it. Mo Salah's. I mean, we've seen a player in Mo Salah that's had a career matched by almost nobody in a Liverpool shirt, and this is one of the best months he's ever had playing for Liverpool, and that, I think, that really kind of sums up the level we've just seen there from him. Before I kind of wax a little more lyrical about him, I think that there are special mentions for a few others. Kelleher just had a hell of a month, really did. In a normal team that isn't doing what we're doing, Kelleher would have been an easy player of the month. The centre backs is still just ridiculous. Gravenberch is still just game after game relentlessly brilliant. So many of them. But Salah, left him in the dust. He's head and shoulders ahead of everybody. Three great goals, 3 fantastic assists. We talk about this a lot because we end up talking about Mo Salah a lot. But the kind of evolution of Mo Salah it's turned into the most odd of things, where he basically doesn't do much, but every single thing that he does do is so important in the game. Every touch feels like it brings a goal scoring opportunity or a goal, or you look at the game last night, he's relatively quiet, but if you assess the things he did do, that early ball for Nunes where where Nunes gets a proper shot off on goal. It's not unlike loads of assists we saw him make for Manny, through his career. The little jink, to win the penalty. He finds a way to affect games in the most important ways with goals and assists. Almost with every bit that he does in a game, everything he does feels important. He's kind of gone to that level where some of the assists in the month, I mean, the one for Gakpo was, do you remember the one first time on his wrong foot in the Leverkusen game? Was it the Leverkusen second goal? First time right footed across the kind of between defense and goalkeeper. It's ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous. He played, just so many. I actually do think the assists are now becoming more impressive than the goals. That's the level he's got to. And that's in a month where he scored that goal against Brighton, which was also ridiculous. There's no level of kind of praise you can put on the guy now that wouldn't be fitting. He's the best player in the world at the moment. He is. He's the best player in the world.
Yeah, it is just absolutely mesmerising. And like you said, both of you, you look at those games, you look at those fixtures. Brighton, the match winner. Let's be clear, the match winner brought it to life. Leverkusen, people will look at Luis Diaz's hat-trick, who was brilliant on the night, sensational. Mo Salah 2 assists, turns the game. Villa, 2-0, goal and assist again. Southampton, the match winner again. Even like you said last night, people will look and say, oh, he wasn't really shining against Real Madrid. Like, hold on, won the penalty. I mean, the only thing he did wrong was an absolute shank of a penalty last night. It was absolutely awful, that penalty. But, even the best miss, that's all that proves. But, yeah, without doubt, considering the supporting cast have been so good, it's almost irrational a little bit just how much Mo Salah is heads and tails. And that's with, like you said, Kanate, VVD, Gravenberch playing out their skin. But Mo Salah, player of the month for November, absolutely no doubt. Before we gear up James's apology and thinking about his words very carefully, we do need to think about this a little bit because, gents, and I know you all have seen this, there's this nonsense narrative creeping in that Arsenal and City are the only two with injuries, aren't they? And they're having to suffer and we're getting nothing. Whereas you could absolutely rail off all the people injured. And even today, we've got the bad news about Conor Bradley, haven't we? That it looks like we won't see him till the new year, according to that report with Paul Joyce. Others still missing, still to come back. I mean, God knows what's happening with Diogo Jota. There's so many things to go through on this. Are you worried at all? Do you have any real concerns, Mark? Or is it a case of because the supporting cast has done so well, not as concerned as you once were?
Yeah, the supporting cast have definitely, like we just kind of touched on in the Madrid game, you're watching guys like Kelleher and Bradley and Jones have these incredible displays, really incredible. We have shown ourselves to have a pretty thick squad. We've dealt with our injuries much better than our main rivals. Arsenal have kind of banged the drum about injuries a hell of a lot. And when you really look at it, Odegaard's the only serious miss they've had. And yes, he's really important for them. But, we've been missing the best right back on the planet. We've been missing the best goalkeeper on the planet. We've been missing our starting number 9, and a whole bunch of kind of squad players as well. So ridiculous to kind of suggest that we're the ones getting away with it. I heard Redknapp say it on the telly, what if Liverpool get injuries? Like, come on, do your research. I mean, it's ridiculous. That really is ridiculous. Because these narratives sometimes play a part a little bit. They can get into the psyche kind of thing. The idea that Liverpool have been lucky now is ridiculous. They've tried to give us the kind of played nobody. They've tried to give us the no injuries. Neither are true. So we've shown ourselves to have like a really good squad. That's kind of undeniable at this stage. And that supporting cast are really good. But ultimately, injuries are a worry. They're a serious worry because, we're looking at a team here where Van Dijk, Kanate, Alisson before him, Kelleher, Gravenberch, McAllister, these guys are playing at the highest possible level. And each one of them will be a miss if they go, and we've seen that already and been really happy with what we've managed to get out the supporting cast, but we haven't quite lost, Van Dijk or Salah would, I guess, be the kind of critical two where you think, like, if Salah didn't play this month or the month before, I think that like directly affects points. Straight away that's less points. I've got these like lingering worries about the likes of Kanate just generally because we've seen him just go down there right at the end of the Madrid game, but I mean we've never seen him play this level of minutes, anything like it in a Liverpool shirt in the same stretch of time. Gravenberch is the same. He's way over the the kind of career high minutes you see from him at this stage. Less worried about Salah and Van Dijk, other than how critical they are, because they're just so relentless in their lack of injuries. But yeah, overall, I think we'd be ridiculous not to start to be concerned, because the numbers are just totting up a little bit, and it's, look at the month we're about to have. 9 games, I think it is, in December, and not quite a few big ones, not that many where you want to see too many changes. And yeah, with every little extra injury, just that, makes Slot's job just that much harder.
Jamesy, Mark unfortunately layered that with fact and layered that with reality. It's there is the niggle there. You're more of a happy vibe type of chappy. Are you concerned? Can you bring us up a little bit, or are injuries a little thing for you as well?
No, injuries concern coming into December is a big thing. However, looking back and the way the Slot's playing, it's not as intense. So it's a little bit different to Klopp's style. So you can see that the players get a little bit more of a rest. Canary's not demanded to do as much. Same as Van Dijk as well. The fullbacks make more them in actual runs instead of outwards. So, it's one of those things that it's obviously a concern, but it's part of football. And we just have to suck it and see what's going to actually happen from there.
Good phrase, eh? I suppose, it is one of those that is fair to say. If we are going to sort of dismiss the narrative against us and say it's false, we are going to have to deal with injuries to an extent, aren't we? They're probably going to come. It's just you are hoping. And this sounds bad to say, but I think the reality today was we knew Konate and we knew Bradley had concerns. We haven't had 100% confirmation, but the suggestions are Konate may be okay. Bradley, we know, was Paul Joyce, others say it's a long term. This is terrible to say, but when the injuries happen, you always talk about squad importance. You probably were thinking, please God, not Konate. He's so important for what we do. That might make it bad. It's just the truth, isn't it, realistically?
Yeah. And also,
Bradley,
pointing out with Trent coming back, the Bradley one, as awful as it is perfectly timed as far as, luck's concerned, if they're going to call us lucky.
Yeah, indeed. It's just you hope the likes of Tsimikas can come back quickly. Gomez stays fit and he comes in. But yeah, touch wood, and we'll come to December. We really don't want too many more at the moment because there is things coming up. James, last month you answered a question very distinctly. Now, James, you are from the clan McKean, which I understanding is a proud clan known for their things like peacefulness, empathy, drinking, fishing, their forthright views, but their consideration of others. So you come from a long and proud tradition. What maybe makes me think that there might be some concern within the clan McKean is when you are asked the question, if Mo Salah leaves at the end of the season, is that a disaster? And you answered no. Not only did you answer no, you repeated that answer and even probably trebled down when we went further on later in the show, despite counterpoints put to you. Now, I just want you to kind of, while you're reflecting on this, think about the long and proud tradition that you come from and how maybe rattling the very bones of your ancestors and the sort of the faith that revolves around the clan that way. Do you wish to change those words that you uttered?
Yes.
Go on then.
I guess it will be a disaster because we can see how much he brings to the team. And how do you replace Mo Salah? And if you've got an opportunity to keep him, you just have to throw the kitchen sink. That's it.
Dave, I don't know about you. That all sounds very familiar, what he just said there. It sounds very much like what we said to him last week.
Hang on 1 second, right? I quote last month, Mark, what you said was about Kelleher You basically said that we're going to see a mistake, and this is why Alisson needs to be in nets. Have you seen a mistake in November by Kelleher?
That's false quote. Didn't say that.
What did you say?
I did not say we're going to get a mistake from Kelleher.
Yes,
Kelleher is inferior to Alisson.
You did. You actually did say that. You did.
Prove it.
Right. We will.
I want that clip.
We will. I will.
It's made up. Made up. He's turning attentions elsewhere. And also, if I said a mistake would come from Kelleher, that is nowhere near as significant a poor statement as what you said about Salah. Yours is unforgivable. Mine would just be a mistake.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analogy. That there really is no defense for what you said, is there?
Well, there is defense because as a football team, I don't care. As a football team, as if Mo Salah leaves because we've offered him everything and he wants to go, yes, is it a disaster? I.e., how do you replace him? Before Liverpool football team, i.e., when Coutinho left, we thought it was a disaster. What happened? Is that a fair point?
There is merit in that, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be a disaster, but if he wants something we cannot offer him, then there's little we can do. As Damo rightly points to really ram the point home on James, you never want to be on the same side of an argument as Troy Deeney. Yeah. So
Troy McKinney.
Troy McKinney, and maybe the clan will be looking for a new member for fishing and various bits. But there we go. So, gentlemen, we turn to December. I'm going to ask you a bit of a different question, but the same way I started. You know the docket for December. Mark, one word to describe December's fixtures.
Fuck.
Jamesy.
Apprehensive.
Okay. Not a bad word, actually. Not too bad. I'm going to go with intense, but not the Pep Linders version, the proper version and all that. So let's have a look here. I mean, people, just if you're watching, just look at this. City on the 1st, big game. Then we go to Newcastle on the 4th. The Derby on the 7th, all within a week. Girona away in the Champions League. Back on the Saturday at home to Fulham. The Carabao away to Southampton on the Wednesday after. Back on Sunday to London and playing Spurs. Then Boxing Day, Leicester at home. And the 29th, West Ham away. Now, there's a lot to consider there, Mark, and a lot to think about. Playing a bit of Arne Slot, what would be your strategy for this a little bit?
Keep winning every single game. That seems to be Slot's strategy so far. No, I think there are 3 fixtures in the month that stand out as a little weaker than the others, which is the Girona, Southampton in the Cup, and Leicester at home, I think, by how they're kind of spaced. And I think those would be the 3 I would look to kind of protect some legs a little bit. But really speaking, in all of the other ones, we're going to have to be there or thereabouts. Maybe you'll see like a Szoboszlai for a Jones or a Diaz and a Gakpo switching one way or the other. But I wouldn't expect to see too much more than that, assuming, Jota and things don't come back into the fold. In all of the other ones, excluding those 3, I think there are some ridiculously big ones in there, some insanely hard aways, 3 really hard away Premier League games in there.
Yeah.
In the same month where you're playing Manchester City, the champions. And just the space between the games is so difficult that I don't envy Slot's month at all. I really don't. I mean, if he can somehow keep this kind of ridiculous miracle season going, if we still are sitting here at the end of the month feeling as happy and kind of positive as we are now, then he will have worked miracles here.
Jamesy, Are you similar? Are you thinking there's a few that easy is maybe the wrong word, but strategic easier, or where you might see rotation? Is it the same for you?
Yeah. Looking at it, even Girona against Liverpool would take a draw. Would that rest from there. I think Liverpool against Fulham could potentially be a tough match. So again, it would rest. From Newcastle and Everton, I think that's real two hard matches. I think obviously taking into City into consideration, but City, Newcastle, and then into Everton, because Everton's like a cup final. It's an unknown. Yeah. That's the way you have to look at it.
Yeah.
And then the one that kind of is the big one is actually Spurs. That's probably out of all of them, that's the one that kind of gives me a bit of fear.
Oof, it's actually a tough one. Okay. I'm going to be honest, similar to you guys, is we've all been talking about, and it's this week, and it Real Madrid into City. I totally get that. And obviously we want a good result against City. You can get brought down to earth really quickly, even with a good result against City, because how hard are them two? Newcastle away, Everton away. And being honest, and we'll come to predictions a little bit, but in terms of, if someone offered me 4 points right now out of those two, I'd probably take it, because of the wiggle room we've kind of got top a little bit, and just to get those ticked off with no injuries, that's the important one. This one, I get what some of you were saying, an easier game. I'm going to be honest, because of where we are in the groups, Girona away, I'm happy right now, lads, if Endo and Tyler Morton are two of the starting midfielders in that one. Genuinely, yeah. I'm like Harvey Elliott's in, things like that squad. That for me is like, I suppose I'd call it a breaker. That's where you're looking at full rotation to get all your first teamers rested for that one. And then, as Damo mentioned there about Jayden Danns, I love the Carabao. We've been to the final many times, haven't we, lads? It's an unbelievable day out and experience. Now, I would love that, but I would love it more if we got there with Jayden Danns, Harvey Elliott, Endo playing that, and the semis, which is 2 legs, by the way, if we get through. So there's that. James, yeah, I think you're right with that. That's a tough game as well. There's no two ways about it. Spurs away. So there's a couple of breakers in there, Girona and Southampton, where your first team squad, your real starters, go once a week for me for those bits. And then Christmas is just brutal, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. Tottenham away. Leicester Boxing Day, maybe an easier fixture. We'll see. Hopefully there's a bit of rotation there. But yeah, absolutely insane. Mark. James. James, I'll come to you first of all for this. Because you embarrassed yourself with Mo Salah last month, this is your chance, and you claim you're a good predictor, but no one has any actual evidence of this at all. Blow by blow. Give me some predictions.
Okay. Liverpool against City. I think we'll beat City 2-0.
Okay.
Newcastle against Liverpool. I think it's going to be an edgy game. I honestly think we'll get beat by that game. It'll be 1-0.
Okay. So win, loss.
Everton and Liverpool. I think we draw it.
Okay. Win, loss, draw. Okay.
Girona, I think we draw. Liverpool against Fulham. I think we draw. Oh, sorry, Liverpool against Fulham, we win. Sorry, I'm waiting. Yeah. Southampton against Liverpool, I think we beat them. Spurs against Liverpool, I think we get beat. Leicester against Liverpool, I think we'll win. And then West Ham against Liverpool, I think we'll win as well.
Okay. Mark, Mr. Happy Vibe, Empathy and everything, has predicted quite a few defeats and draws on the docket there. Let's see what your scorecard looks like.
Yeah, maybe a tough few days out fishing for James. He's left him a little sad. No bites. I'm more positive than that. I think what we're seeing from the Reds is really, really just so strong at the minute. I think logic has to say we will beat Man City this weekend, just based on what we've seen from them and what we've seen from us over the past few weeks. I mean, obviously they can return to form at any time, and it's only a game of football at the end of the day. They could beat you, on any given sort of Sunday. But logic says we win that one. I think we'll go and beat Newcastle as well, if I'm honest. I think that's a tough game, but I think we'll go and beat them. I've always loved the game at St James's. I think it's just one of those kind of anything can happen kind of moments, and I think that suits the kind of team that we are at the moment. I think we've got so many match winners about the team. I think I welcome a kind of punch out there, and I fancy our guys to be the ones left standing, kind of thing. Everton, really tough game. Hate those 12:30s. I think I'd have to go a draw in that one, if I'm honest, because we're on such a tough run. The guys will be coming off, basically the Madrid game, the City game, the Newcastle game, just back to back to back, where all the first teamers kind of have to play. And I think that's the one where it maybe tells a little, and we end up just looking a little more kind of lackluster than you'd hope. Girona, they'll hopefully rest a few in Girona. That'll be the one where I don't care really, if I'm honest, what the result is. Don't mind if we lose. We're in such a strong position. I mean, I kind of got onto the Champions League thing this week with caring more about the results than I had done previously, because I hadn't kind of paid attention to the fact that knocking Madrid down the rankings means that if they get into a playoff, there's a much harder game for them, and you're just increasing the kind of the frequency of games, the difficulty of games for the teams that you are up against to win it. So that one meant a lot. Girona, it's hard to make that argument. You don't really care where they finish. We're going to be kind of top 8 regardless now, it looks like. I hope we rest a few there. Let's just call it a draw, I think. Fulham at home, hopefully a well-rested first team will come back in there and play to the level that we've been seeing up to now in the season and win. Then the League Cup, more rested there. I still think you'll go reasonably strong there, if I'm honest, because it's a chance at a cup. The new manager trying to kind of get that first one under the belt. Quarter-final, you're already kind of far in. City have already fallen. I could see, I don't think it'll be full strength by any stretch, but I think we'll get quite a few, unexpected there, and I think we'll win. Tottenham away, I would say that's the hardest to predict one in the month, because Tottenham are so Jekyll and Hyde. You just don't really know what you're going to see from them, which one's going to turn up. You watch them play against, Bournemouth or whoever, and they look shit. And then, you watch that City game and they absolutely destroyed them. It's really hard to know. But on balance, I still think we're better than them. I still think, I wouldn't, not hardly any of theirs would I take for our starting 11. So I'll go a draw there. I think I don't see us getting beat. I think we'll absolutely batter Leicester. I think that'll be one of the. I always like the kind of Boxing Day around those fixture ones where spirits are high. You'll get it. You'll get it under the lights at Anfield. Everyone will, kind of be in that Christmas vibe, and it might just be in my head, but I always feel like those are big ones. In fact, did we not batter Leicester in one of those just a couple of years ago, where 4-1? I think Trent, Manny, a couple of great goals in those ones. And then we finished the month with West Ham, is it? Yeah, West Ham. And just another really hard away game. I mean, just crazy. 4 really hard away Premier League games in the month. But I think we are better than them. And, they've not really hit it this season yet. And I think that'll be another win.
A bit better then. Interesting. I think we beat City. I think we draw at St James's. I think the one thing I looked at as well is City got a draw. They beat Arsenal, didn't they? It's a tough place to go, St James's. I think we win at Goodison. And I'll come to that a little bit in the next section. Girona, a little bit like you. I actually think Girona, when you look at where they are, I think we'll beat them, but we should beat them even with Endo in there, Harvey Elliott, squad players, nothing wrong with that at all. I think we then beat Fulham at home because they'll have a bit of a rest. Southampton, again, I think we'll beat Southampton. We made them look good because of internationals and the way everything had worked out. Well, they're not a particularly great team. And even I'm not saying reserves is too harsh, but our second string should beat Southampton. Tottenham away, I'm going draw with that one. That's the one I think, draw. And I think, I could be wrong, but I'm going to go, we finish the festive period strongly. We beat Leicester and we've got a good record at that Olympic Stadium as well. So I am going to go that we beat West Ham, which overall is not a bad Christmas period if it comes to fruition. If James's comes to fruition, it's the nightmare before Christmas, literally. And the Clan McKean will have some serious, serious questions to answer. I mean, out of all these, Mark, just one name, one team, most nervous about.
Oh. I think it's still got to be City for me, just because of what it means, you know, because of the battles down the years. I feel like if we go and beat them on Sunday, it is, you know, we're off to the moon. It's like take off.
Jamesy?
The one I'm worrying about is Spurs, but I do honestly think that we'll beat City. I think it'll be an aggressive crowd. I think it's something that we know that we have them for the taking and we need to go and batter them. But Spurs is the one that concerns me the most out of that fixture list.
Yeah, that's fair enough. For me, weirdly enough, I did swither with City, but I don't know why, and I don't want this to be famous last words. I've got, you know, everything suggests on paper one way. This game, lads, this game, we go from Newcastle on a Wednesday night at 7:30 to Everton 12:30. That is not much rest at all, is it? That is practically zero rest. And do you remember how bad we were at Goodison last season? We were absolutely weak, dreadful, and we got out for. And if you've looked at the way Everton's season's gone so far, that's kind of their season a little bit, isn't it? Really, there's not much going on for them, in all honesty. So there is a few, there really is. And even now, we could talk about it, but we'll have to see what December brings. We have put our predictions on the docket. James, I might be wrong, just a bit of a vibe question, because I know you've got your like hipster hippie crowd that like all this stuff as well. You didn't seem quite that positive. Would you say you weren't that positive about December?
It's more about being realistic, just looking at the games and just thinking about, you know, the big thing about December is, can we come through December without any injuries? That's the massive thing. And to be able to go into January and kick on. You know, we've got big games. We know we're going to have big games. The goal is that if we draw a couple of games, then we can kind of get back to our winning ways again. The big thing is to win all our games at Anfield. And that's it. Like going to Newcastle, and yes, I predicted that they'll get beat, but you know, there's potential there that they could get a draw. Same as Spurs. That's why it's Spurs. You know, they blow hot and cold. Mark already talked about it. Like, you know, against City, they look like, you know, unbelievable. However, against Bournemouth, you know, they're there for the taking.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jay says there, Spurs with face and get they are a dynamic and energetic squad. You just don't know if you get the Spurs that battered City or the Spurs that lost at home to Ipswich, I think it was as well, wasn't it? So we know which one we hope. Mark, more positive than James. Would you say December you've got a positive outlook, or is that too strong?
No, I think you have to. How could you not be positive? I mean, look where we find ourselves. Look at the way we're playing. I mean, it's good. If you want to add to some of these numbers, if you want to start tallying these up, you got to be positive. You got to go for it. If we have the month James is predicting, it's going to be a sorry Christmas, and I don't see with Liverpool haven't shown us anything to make us that nervous about all those games. I'm kind of finding myself in the place where I found myself in the middle of Klopp's reign, where you really are starting to believe in everything we're up to. Every game, every performance, every individual, we're right up there. We're hitting. Like I said, people are calling us the best team in the world at the minute. Why would we be frightened of a month of a lot of games? It's a lot of games we can go and win.
Yeah. And rotate. There's still players that haven't played many minutes. It is important to say that as well. So, God, I never thought we'd do a show where I was the most positive for a month, especially the month of Christmas. And James is literally the most negative. It is literally Freaky Friday here on, monthly, daily, whatever. Gents, this, as it pops up there, contract talk. I mean, we keep talking about this and we keep talking about this. There's nothing signed. There's still 3. And in for a month's time, 3 players, as we know, can sign pre-contract agreements with overseas clubs. That's just a fact. And we hear things, and we'll get into that a little bit. Are you any more positive about this? And tell me you are, James, because you have been the uber positive one about these 3 contracts.
I think the 3 get signed. I think it's just coincidence. I think, yes, the club let it go, but, Adidas has come in. We know Salah and Trent as Adidas athletes. There's going to be a bit of stick in there. VVD, again, one of those things that just figuring out exactly what's going to happen. Even though if Trent doesn't get signed in January, i.e. to Real Madrid, it can still go to February or March. Yes, it's a little bit, wow, what's happening? But it can happen. So I honestly think the 3 of them get signed. I just can't see any other way.
Mark, James has done some unbelievable mental gymnastics to try and defend Richard Hughes in the boardroom and the people like that. What are your thoughts on the 3 contracts?
Yeah, I'll go individually on them. Salah, I think, has shown with his kind of comments in the press and stuff lately just how keen he is to stay. Not that we were ever really in doubt, but I think he's really making sure we as fans know where he stands, that he wants to stay, and there's a deal to be had. They just have to kind of come up with the right numbers or length or whatever that issue is. And I think if you step back from that and look at it, that should fill you with confidence that one gets done. Because when a player of that level is that willing and desperate to stay, and the fans would really struggle to accept anything other than that at this stage. Yeah. It's hard to imagine how Richard Hughes, who hasn't started that well in his role at Liverpool, all in all, could be, wouldn't feel the pressure in making it happen. Because, for me personally, that would be a line in the sand for Richard Hughes. When a guy that good, that we love this much, is that keen to stay, not to get it done, I don't accept it, wouldn't accept it. So, kind of confidence level, I know you hate when I put percentages on things, but I'm somewhere around 75% on Mo. I think his keenness to get it done means that it just has to. It has to. With Van Dijk, I'm all the way up at 100%. There's rumours that it's already done. It's already signed. I actually believe those. I think we are that close to that. I think the Salah one, the Van Dijk one, is imminent. I think we're going to hear that one soon. It's the one that has seemed to have the least obstacles all the way through, kind of as far as the rumours go. There's never been any major doubt, I think about that one. And, he's playing at the most ridiculous level, similar to Salah. It would be insane not to renew that guy. I find myself certain that one's getting done. The Trent one, which has always been the one right back to the first time we ever talked about it on Red Alert, has been the one that's concerned me for the same reason that it still concerns me, which is his situation is different than the other 2 because of his age. I really don't believe the club wouldn't have been trying for an extended period now to get him signed up. And the fact that he hasn't tells you everything you need to know about it. He is choosing not to sign the deal. we'll never know the ins and outs of, where he is, how far out he is, if he's testing the water and just really wants to see how high Liverpool will go. You just don't know. You can make up loads of scenarios on it, but ultimately the facts tell you he hasn't signed a deal when they've been in talks probably for maybe 18 months now about a deal and not managed to get him to sign one. His buddy Bellingham there, I think in his ear, Madrid clearly are trying for him. I think his head has been turned, and I would honestly say I'm as low as like 20% on Trent. I think he's gone.
James,
do you think in January that he's going to be in negotiations with Madrid?
I think he already is. Yeah, I think he already knows what's on offer there,
and that means that he loses his legacy of Liverpool.
That's it's a matter of opinion, that isn't it? I heard him in an interview recently where someone put it to him, I thought you wanted to be Liverpool captain. And he said, I already have captain Liverpool. And even that sounded like a little bit of a change in his attitude. His previous attitude was kind of, my career is leading to being Liverpool captain. The idea that he said, I'd already captained Liverpool, I found that worrying. It was kind of like... been there, done it, rather than like, that's still the ambition for me. Because you can easily look at it as he's won every single trophy. If you were looking objectively, not as a Liverpool fan, he's already won everything at Liverpool. Why not try your hand somewhere else? That's not my view. My view would be guys like Gerrard and stuff gave their entire fucking career for this, to be where you are in a team that can go and win stuff year in, year out. As a Liverpool fan, this should be everything. How can you look elsewhere when you find yourself here with some of the best? You get the best goalie, the best right back, the best centre back. You've got more, just world superstars all around you in every position. You've just battered Madrid yesterday. It's infuriating to think about, but it still doesn't change my mind that I get the feeling his head is turned.
He's becoming a better defender. And if you look at the stats against Brighton and Mitoma and how he actually successful dribbles and him trying to go past, he made 9 tackles. That was, I think it was 2019-20 season. When we're talking about a Liverpool player, it's the thing with Trent, and again with all of them, is it's just coincidental. I honestly do believe that. I think that there's been
explain that. How is it coincidental that Trent not signed the deal because it's into his contract at his age?
Right. So first of all, you got a whole new structure that comes in. Okay. The second thing you also have is you have a manager that is and basically in Jurgen Klopp, influential, doesn't know who's coming in, going to realise and say, right, Arnie's thought, what's he going to bring to the table? Okay. Then on top of that, the Adidas was actually announced as well, a new sponsorship deal from Nike to Adidas. So you've got all these kind of factors that come in.
Honest, I want to pick you up on every single one individually there, because I just don't accept any of those as valid points. The Adidas thing is not going to make or break a deal to keep your most valuable asset. It's just not. That's mental. If to suggest that they wouldn't want to keep Trent would be mental. Changing the ownership, the hierarchy wouldn't change it. Schmatka and things, if you think they weren't looking at Trent's contract and talking to him, that wouldn't make sense as a club. If Schmatka had any ambition to stay on, he must have been talking to Trent. He must have.
So you're telling me that he didn't know who was coming into that club, and finally, because you basically just said that there now, Mark, you says
what do you mean? Who was
waiting to see about what's happening when it comes to him in general. So if you think about, he wants to understand, what's Liverpool going to bring? Is there going to be trophies? And he's effectively just waiting. You already said that.
Are you talking about Trent? Trent's waiting out, yeah. But that gives you no suggestion that he wants to stay. That's him kind of waiting and playing his hand, which in itself tells you that there is doubt that he might not want to stay. If Trent was just absolutely committed, he would have signed the deal a year ago, whatever it was, and certainly in the form Liverpool find themselves in, there would be no question of kind of where we're headed or anything like that at this stage. We've made the transition. We're going to be successful. The fact that he's still not signing deals tells you everything.
I don't believe it. I'm sorry, Mark. I don't believe it. I think there's a lot more moving parts than this here. I think it's just one of those things that's happened the last 12 months has been a bit of a roller coaster with Liverpool and the contracts. Yes, we can talk about Richard Hughes, and we can say that Richard Hughes, could have played a bit of a better game. It is criminal that you have the biggest superstars in our team and the contracts have run down. But again, Trent is you're talking one of the highest paid players in Premier League. I'm not buying it. I think that there's going to be contract talks in the next couple of months.
Well, ladies and gents, this is definitely something we'll be carrying on next month. And when we carry it on next month, gents, we will be in that January period, won't we? So if there's no news by then, for what it's worth, I do believe, like Mark, I do get the feeling that there is truth in those VVD rumours. I do suspect we'll hear something before the end of the year for VVD. That's my honest opinion. Mo Salah, I think the will of the player is saying a lot there. It's going to be a hard sell, and FSG, whoever you want to call them, Ward, Edwards, Hughes, etc., are going to face some serious backlash if something doesn't happen with Mo Salah, because it's quite clear what the will of the player is. So you're hopeful, lads, just get that compromise reached as quickly as possible. And then with Trent, probably, I don't know if it'd be that percentage. I don't like putting percentages on anything particularly, but it is probably the one I am a bit more concerned about. I understand what you're saying, Jamesy. However, maybe this is just me and we're Liverpool fans, but Trent is a Liverpool fan. You look and you're the scouser in the team. You're one of the stars. Everyone loves you. You are in a team that has a perfect record in the Champions League, has just beat Real Madrid, is top of the Premier League. We heard, and we can't have revisionism on this, let's be clear. We heard two things specifically. Number one, Trent was the priority of the club because he was the most valuable asset. Makes sense because of his age, the value he is, completely understand. The second thing we heard was that Trent was waiting to see what's going to happen, how it all beds in, a bit like the others as well. I mean, what could Slot have done any better? Let's just be honest. There are lots to the table now. We're doing it at the moment. So the fact that this is going on still and we're not really hearing so much from the Trent camp or around the Trent saga, if you want to call it that, does not fill me with much hope. A bit like Mark. However, to finish, all three of us completely hope that James is correct and we are bowing to his wisdom. No doubts about it. Because let's be honest, it was an absolute shit show around Mo Salah and what he said last month. So this could be full redemption. But, gents, that was November. That was December discussed. So, Mark, for the time and the insight, much appreciated.
Cheers, mate. Been a pleasure.
James, for
Thanks.
a tired looking, because we had a big trip to Real Madrid, back and forth Madrid. We've talked a lot. It's not been the happiest one from you, but you gave us the 3 contracts for your gut at the end. So we'll take that. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Dave.
And ladies and gents, to a good number that have been watching, a good number that have been commenting, and I'll save this comment to last, Damo. How good would it be if Van Dijk is announcing that contract, hopefully joined by a few of his mates around the Christmas tree at some point? That would be absolutely spectacular. But if you've been watching, if you've been listening, alert, Anfield Index.